Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing this Jeskai control deck that was piloted by SPyromancer to win a legacy challenge. So this is a deck that has sort of seen a bit of fringe play and occasionally ticks up and does quite well. There's very few people playing it, but it's putting up some reasonable results, but something you should be aware of. This deck is using some wizard synergy here. So we have Tamiyo, which is pretty much one of the best things you can be doing in legacy. We've got Thundertrap Trainer, which can dig us looking for important pieces to interact in this highly demanding format where you have to interact early and often. So this being able to find specific interaction is really nice. We also have good old-fashioned Snapcaster Mage as well, and even a Magus of the Moon. So these are our wizards. So why are we playing wizards? Well, we're running this card called Flame of Anor. So it's 3 mana for draw 2 at instant speed, or destroy target artifact, or deal 5 damage to a creature. However, if you have a wizard, you get both of these options, which is a pretty good rate. Being able to kill a creature and draw 2 cards at instant speed is really strong. It's kind of reminiscent of Colligan's Command, but obviously in a colours where we have white removal, which is really important right now. So white removal we have Source of Plowshares, Prismatic Ending. We also have a Teferi in here, which can bounce some stuff out and give us control of the stack. And we also have a Forth Eorlingas as our sort of big finisher that we can use. Now we have one Forth Eorlingas, and the only way we can bring it back is via this Snapcaster. So it is possible to lose our main win condition. We just have to sort of chip them down with little bits and pieces. But people quite often just scoop to the Tamiyo ultimate anyway. Alongside this, we've got all the things you'd expect. Brainstorms and Ponders. We've got a Force of Negation, so we've got 5 force effects. We've got 1 Lorien Revealed here. We've got some Dress Downs, which can mess up some Urza Saga tokens, which is normally a thing that control decks can struggle against. And there's a couple of Spell Pierce in the flex slots here. Our mana is just trying to cast our spells. There's no wastelands, no Karakas, nothing. We just want to cast our spells, but we have a lot of basic lands. The reason for these basic lands is it's good to not get wastelanded off your spells, but also we have back to basics in the sideboard. So we can play this and hurt our opponent, but not ourselves. Speaking of the sideboard, we've got some Pyroblasters as you'd expect. We've got another Force and some Consign, some Graveyard Hate in Surgical Extraction. Wrath of the Skies is a nice little sweeper. A Stony Silence, which could be a Null Rod. Because the 1 white pip on this can sometimes jam you up, especially if we're fetching basics. But I'm curious to see how this plays out though. And then we have a Magus of the Moon. For when we need that effect, we can board in this and have the back to basics and have quite a lot of ways of hating out our opponent's land, which makes up for the fact we're not running any wasteland type stuff. Alright, that's the list. Congratulations to SPyromancer for winning the Legacy Challenge, and let's see how we get on with this Wizard control deck. If you are looking to buy some Magic cards, not only does 3for1 Trading have a wonderful online store linked in the description of this video, but they will also have booths at upcoming events. MagicCon Atlanta from the 26th to 28th of September, Eternal Weekend Pittsburgh from the 9th to the 12th of October, and Spiel 25 in Essen from the 23rd to the 26th of October. Whether you're looking to sell off cards you don't need or add more to your collection, 3for1 Trading has got you covered. Alright, this is our opener. We can fetch a couple of basics. We can play off the Spell Pierce, then Thundertrap Trainer looking for the relevant interaction when we know what our opponent's up to. This seems fine. Don't really want to get bodied by a turn 1 combo, but turn 2 we've at least got a little bit of interaction, so can't say fairer than that. Exploration, so we're probably looking at lands, which is not going to be great for us. But at least our mana base has a lot of basics in. Now it might not be lands, it might be something a bit spicier, but we'll see. Here is our Prismatic Vista. Let's pass it over. So we've got a Spell Pierce, but we're not going to be able to clip many things with a Spell Pierce, given the amount of lands our opponent's probably going to be putting into play. This is a lot of green-black mana, so they're probably not on traditional lands, they're on something a little bit more unusual. So we could be seeing some kind of Eumidian Hatchery base deck, possibly with like Hogaaks and Orcish Bowmasters, rather than like full-on lands. A Thoughtseize. Okay. We're going to get this island. We're going to protect our hand here. Because I don't want to lose this Magus of the Moon, because it might be a very important piece of winning this game. Are they going to play a land now? They did play a land. Okay, so the Magus of the Moon we have to be careful, because we don't want to just give them the infinite Urza Saga tokens, because we won't beat that. So we need to find a way through that doesn't involve that. So I think we're going to have to let them go through their Saga, I think, which is a real problem. I already feel like I'm behind, which is not great. Okay, let's get a Thundertrap Trainer in. We can find some sort of answer for potential Marilage over here. A Dress Down. That does answer one of the problems that we have on the board right now in this Urza Saga. So we can take out the Urza Saga constructs after they've made them. Alright, so they're probably... Yep, so the Thespian stage is becoming another Saga. So we're going to end up with 2 Sagas making constructs. Now, they might just turn this into a basic land, so it doesn't go away, and they can just keep pumping out constructs, and I don't know how we actually beat that. Wasteland, yep. So our deck is built around lots of basic lands, so that we're good against things like Wasteland as well, but whenever Wasteland does hit us, it's going to be absolutely disastrous. And it certainly feels like that right now. Smallpox. Okay, we're going to lose everything. So our opponent is definitely on something a bit more unusual. What do we want to get rid of here? I think it's the Teferi. And then we lose everything. No permanents in play. And our opponent's got 2 Urza Sagas doing their thing. I would describe the situation as astronomically bad. However, Tamiyo is a very busted Magic the Gathering card. It's kind of wild this is even still legal in my opinion. But here we are. We get to play it. We get to turn it sideways and make some clues. This is easily the best card in our deck. And it's pretty good against Pucks because they sometimes struggle to interact with Planeswalkers. So we can just kind of ride this to victory. Now, the pressure they have off these Urza Saga means they might be able to pressure a Tamiyo. Although it doesn't look like they're doing that. They're just floating mana off of this one. They can always funnel it into the other Urza Saga if they want a token. Or they can turn this into a basic and just sit pretty behind it and know that it can't be interfered with. Okay, they're getting an Expedition map. So they can just keep the train coming. They're probably reluctant to do Urza Saga stuff because we have the dress down. But I think it's also valid to make some constructs, force me to use the dress down to kill the constructs, and then keep going if you've got access to multiple construct making factories. But obviously they play this out in a way that they're going to establish the infinite construct makers. They turn this into a basic land and they can just sit behind it and pump out constructs. So they're taking it slowly, which makes sense given the nature of our deck. We're not going to be doing anything particularly quickly here. And our opponent should know roughly what we're playing after they've seen the selection of cards. Okay, so step 1 is attack with Tamiyo. Step 2 is brainstorm, because we need to brainstorm anyway, but we may as well try and get where we're going. Our opponent has no cards in hand, so we might just be able to beat them up with our Tamiyo Planeswalker. Okay, I like having lands in this matchup. I don't think the Magus of the Moon looks particularly good when our opponent's going to be doing this, but maybe it's still something we can think about. Snapcaster Mage, not actually looking great right now. I think this is probably one of the ones that goes. And then we can leave the Lorien Revealed on top, and we can keep it or get rid of it depending on what we're doing. Okay, so we're just going to sit behind this Tamiyo, and our opponent maybe scoops when it pops. They probably have some sort of Planeswalker answer in their deck, like a Shoulder's Edict style thing, Bitter Triumph, something along those lines. Possibly an Assassin's Trophy. Quite like Assassin's Trophy in like smallpox looking decks. Alright, so they should be activating this, targeting a basic land. They can target one of their own lands if they just want better mana, but they're going for a basic so that we can't interfere with it. That makes sense. So now this doesn't go away, but they do get the tutor still, because the trigger has happened. Pithing Needle. Are we going to get done Pithing Needle on the Flooded Strand here for not fetching? I don't think they should do that. They should name the Tamiyo. Yep, they've named the Tamiyo, but by leaving the Flooded Strand in, maybe our opponent makes a mistake there. So I wanted this Lorien Revealed. So we deploy this. I think we will go for... We need a red source here. So it means it has to be the Plateau, I think. So it's destroy target artifact. And then we'll continue plussing the Tamiyo. We have a Snapcaster Mage that we can draw next turn, or we can cycle the Lorien Revealed in our upkeep if we don't want it. But it's looking a little bit better now because our opponent's just not doing anything over there. So I want this Snapcaster Mage. It does block and just keeps our guy alive. Right, does it block that well with a Shadow Spear? Interesting. It's a pretty flexible card. So what is it doing for us now? It's Brainstorm, potential Flame of Anor in a couple of turns, or Spell Pierce. I think we can probably do a little bit better than that. Alright, I'm going to cycle this in the upkeep. And I will get this Volcanic Island. Okay, Plains, happy to see you. Do I want our opponent to know we have a Plains? Not particularly. So let's play this out. And then we have access to this dress down to make sure that we can draw half of our library with a Tamiyo, and maybe our opponent scoops that. But we should have enough resources to beat what our opponent's doing. Unless they have like actual factual pox, and they'll make us discard a whole bunch of cards. Alright, you have a construct. So maybe we're supposed to have played out the Plains in case we draw a plow and we need to plow. What we do is we wait for them to spend the mana on the Shadow Spear. Right, and not spending the mana on the Shadow Spear. Where is this coming? At Tamiyo most likely. Like, if we do this, we just end up with a Tamiyo ultimately next turn. I think it is worth doing. The Force of Will, not at its best. But it will be good after we draw half our library. I guess if our opponent has an Orcish Bowmasters, we need to be a little bit wary of that. Let's see if they play a spell here. Okay, they're just Life from the Loam, so they're getting back Wasteland, Urza Saga, and Catacombs. Okay, that's fine. We should be able to find our Force of Negation at some point. And then we can deal with this Loam permanently. Yep, they're wasting our white source. We hid our plains. This is the correct land to Wasteland, given our setup, though. Okay, so we have one card in hand and it's a land. So we just get to draw 1,000,000 cards. And then we have to work out what we're doing with our hand. Like, probably whatever we want is the answer. Like, 20 cards is a lot of cards. Okay, so we've got the answer. So I think we play... What are we doing here? We've got... So we can play out a Tamiyo to give us a wizard. And then we can play out a mountain so that we have access to our Flame of Anor, which can blow up an artifact and a creature at the same time. And then we're just going to keep making land drops until we get to Forth Eorlingas, our opponent, for enough. So you make a construct here. It's going to be a 2/2. So the Flame of Anor can happily blow it up. And Flame of Anor says, if you control a wizard as you cast this spell, you choose 2 modes. So our opponent can't blow this up in response and stop us from having both modes. And if they go to kill our creature, then we can fire off in response. So once this is in play, we kind of always get to have our cake and eat it. So they got back the Life from the Loam. And then we're going to Force of Negation, Life from the Loam. We don't have our second dress down. But we got some Thundertrap Trainers that can find it. We can make it so our opponent is basically just getting 1 construct a turn, and that's all they get to do once we slam this Magus. And that should be relatively easy to handle. Alright, so here is that Life from the Loam. So here is our Force of Negation. Pitch one of these Brainstorms. I don't think we need those right now. We got plenty of cantrippy style stuff. So our opponent's Hellbent. They are going to have a bad time. So we probably just Flame of Anor, blow this up and this up. So getting rid of the construct and the Shadow Spear, unless they make a construct. So we can block with a Tamiyo, they make a construct, then we fire in and kill both constructs. That's probably our best bet. They could equip the Shadow Spear first and still have enough to make a construct. If we play a Maze of the Moon, they do have 2 sagas that can pop off though. So we need to wait on the Maze of the Moon until this is gone. I can handle my opponent having 1 construct making factor and nothing else going on in the game. I don't think I can handle them having 2. Alright, our opponent's just had enough. We've got too many cards in hand. I think we are going to win this game. It might take a little bit of time, but we'll get there. So we're doing some POC stuff. Feels like Wrath of the Skies is going to be pretty handy here. Back to basics is an interesting one. Like, our opponent's trying to suck all the life out of the game, but they have just like loads of non-basics. So this can actually tangle pretty well. Same with this, and possibly some Surgicals. Like, they've got a Thespian Stage in there, so I wouldn't be surprised if they had Dark Depths. So, what doesn't look good in our hand? I don't really want to pitch 2 cards to do a thing in this matchup. Now, there's definitely some stuff that I do want to Force of Will, but I think if we trade out these Force of Wills and just keep 1 Force of Negation, that ends up looking better. So, we've got a little bit of answers there. Do I like the Teferi? It can slow down on Urza Saga. It can maybe bounce a construct or Marit Lage token. Like, that's fine. It does something whilst also being a thing on the board, so we can kind of go up on resources with it, which is what this matchup is often going to be about. Maybe we don't need Surgicals. If our plan for the Loam is the Force of Negations, we don't need the Surgical, but maybe we do need a Surgical. Maybe we'll take out this Teferi and we'll try and fit in 1 Surgical. Maybe these Spell Pierces aren't great. Like, they're good against Pox though. They're very good against Pox, but they're not very good against, like, their Loam just ticking up and doing its thing. Maybe we can trim 1 Flame of Anor, but this card is kind of like the reason our deck works. So I'm a little bit reluctant to trim that. Prismatic Ending, great. Forth Eorlingas, we need a way of winning the game. So I think it's... Is it Spell Pierce? Maybe it is just a Spell Pierce to get in 1 of these. Is that enough answers, or do you want 1 more answer? We could just go completely off of Spell Pierce and have the Surgicals. We can try this. I think for the most part we're just trying to Wrath of the Skies away their early pressure and then lock them out with like a back to basics or Magus effect. We have more non-basics in my hand than I would like. But we do have some good answers to the Saga, and we do have a way of shutting the game down a bit. I think we'll try it. Mulliganing against the Pox deck does not feel like a good strategy either. Mox Diamond. Okay, that's another thing we can sweep up with our Wrath of the Skies when we find it. Another Mox Diamond, okay. We do have 2 basic planes in our deck, so we can cast our Wrath of the Skies underneath our own Magus or underneath pressure from Wastelands. Is this going to be a Life from the Loam? Yeah. Sweet. That is a great turn for our opponent. Big fan of that. Not for us, just I'm happy for them. Interesting didn't play out the hatchery there. The hatchery pressure is kind of annoying for us. Okay, we have the Force of Negation. That is one of the things that we desperately needed to find. We have 2 of these, so it's not nothing. I would have liked to have had this in my opener and just shut down my opponent's hand, but beggars can't be choosers. Alright, they've milled over a Bayou. If all they're doing is this sort of stuff with the loam, we're okay. Hatchery, at some point this is going to be a problem, and hopefully we can clean it up later on. Alright, this is just another thing that we get to blow up with our Wrath of the Skies when we eventually find it. Thundertrap Trainer, pretty good at finding answers to stuff though. So they've got 2 mystery cards, no, they've got a loam and a mystery card in hand. So they're going to play out the loam here, and then we're going to Force of Negation it, and then hopefully everything will be fine for us. Oh, a crop rotation. That is a different beast. I don't think we can use our force on this. Our force has to be pointed at our opponent's loam, otherwise you're in trouble. They just got a Bayou. Huh. Okay, that seems a very interesting use of crop rotation. Maybe that was just trying to bait out this Force of Negation and see if we would fall for it. So now our opponent is hellbent over there. There are no Surveil lands in our deck. I don't think you get to run them alongside the whole basic plan. So this turn we're going to be using our Thundertrap Trainer to dig towards Wrath of the Skies. If we find Wrath of the Skies, our opponent may just straight up scoop to that. Thundertrap Trainer. So we're going to go get a basic... Do we get a basic island here? I think we have to. And then... This is a white source, this is a white source. This is also a red source. So I think we play out the Tundra. Just trying to work out the best way to navigate potential wastelands off the top from our opponents. Alright, Thundertrap Trainer. Hook me up. Ponder, Surgical Extraction. I think we take the Surgical. This insulates us against another Life from the Loam, which is the scariest thing our opponent can do. Yep, they're just going to start stacking counters on the hatchery. The Mages of the Moon will shut this down, but we don't really want to Mages of the Moon until we've kind of cleared up our opponent's board a little bit. Alright. Urza Saga is good. We do have the dress down for it, though. So 1 cycle through an Urza Saga is fine, then we can remove it, and that's going to be most of their win conditions gone. Tamiyo is pretty darn good. I think we start off, though, with Thundertrap Trainer here. Let's look for some more cards. Wrath of Skies. Flame of Anor is real good here. I think we take the Flame. And then I will deploy Tamiyo. And I feel pretty comfortable with the spot we're in right now. So they're probably going to add a counter to the hatchery. Yep. And then they're just going to be playing an Urza Saga game, I think, from this point onwards. But we have a Flame of Anor that they also know we have. So we get to blow up their creatures. So this can answer the Urza Saga on its own. Because we can blow up both constructs. 1 card in our opponent's hand. We have a Brainstorm here. That is not a bad card by any stretch of the imagination. If they make a token here, that's fine. I think we just attack with a Tamiyo and leave stuff open. Now we could Brainstorm here. I don't know if our opponent runs Orcish Bowmasters. We didn't see them in the previous game. How bad is it if they hit us with a Bowmaster? We can dress down in response, which isn't ideal. Okay, I think I'm going to Brainstorm, so I would love to make a land drop here. Assassin's Trophy on the Tamiyo. Okay. Yes, I would love to use this ability, and we'll get one of these planes out. And then I will have my Brainstorm. We still get to make a land drop this turn as well, which feels pretty good. So I don't want to turn this off just yet, because if we play the Magus, this is going to be a problem for us. So we go Plow, Ponder. Make a land that we can choose if we want to keep the ponder. We can always draw a card, then shuffle away as well. I feel in a happy place right now. You can make a construct. Do I care about Pithing Needle here? No. If they get a Pithing Needle, then we can just blow it up if we want to. We've also got the Dress Down. Just going to do some work. The Magus of the Moon will shut off the Umilian Hatchery next turn as well. We need our opponent to not have like another Saga. Actually, if they play a Saga right now, it's not even that bad. We don't get a window unless they play something with a trigger. Play something with a trigger, then we can Surgical this. But they didn't get something with a trigger. They got a Shadow Spear. That is an Urborg. You got it, boss. If you would like to equip this, I will respond. Do I want the ponder on top of my library, is the question. I think we do. Which means we crack this clue first, and then we cast it. I guess we could have just tapped it because it was a swamp. I think we want the white here. Then I will cast a Dress Down. Goodbye, my opponent's chance of winning this game. Hello, Snapcaster Mage. This can give us a rebuy on the Force of Negation soon. It's pretty good. I think our opponent will scoop to the Magus of the Moon, though. Okay, is this better than just casting the Magus of the Moon? I think it's pretty good, isn't it? Alright, let's just get this game over and done with, I think. So, there's a 2-turn clock, our opponent's just scooping. They don't have any single card in their deck that gets them back from here. But even if we don't draw that, we still just Magus of the Moon. They're kind of locked out at that point. Alright, not bad. Let's go to round 2. This hand for round 2 doesn't really do very much. I don't think we can keep a hand that looks like this in the current Legacy format. I think we have to mulligan to have something to do in the first couple of turns. Okay. I don't think we need 3 Tamiyos. This is fine. We get to go Island, Tamiyo, and then they've got that pressure to deal with, and then we've got another one to follow it up with, and then Thundertrap Trainer when we know what we're looking for. So if there's a Source to Plowshares matchup, which it is, we can do that. If it's a counterspell matchup, we can obviously look for counterspells as well. Right. Our opponent might be Mono Blue Delver. Okay, are you going to daze our Tamiyo? We have 2. We don't want to die with spells in hand. Right, a dazing, that's fine. This is why we have 2. We get to effectively use the first one like a duress, and the second one gets to pop off around a daze. Preordain. I don't know if they're mono blue or they just are the blue red and they just happen to have their island start, because they have 1 island in a lot of Delver decks these days. Okay, so we can deploy this Tamiyo, and then we can cycle the Lorien Revealed and get our way a little bit closer to getting these Thundertrap Trainers to find something that we can immediately use. Flooded Strand. I'm not going to block. The Tamiyo is more important than preserving our life total at this stage of the game. Now, that might change later on, but for now, this is where we want to be. We have a question. Do we get a red source in case we draw Flame of Anor? That does expose us to Wasteland. Alright, they are mono blue Delver, I think. Let's see if they've got a Stifle over there. They're more likely to have Stifle in a mono blue Delver list. There it is. That's not perfect, obviously, but I can live with it. Let's attack with this Tamiyo. And then we're going to try and Brainstorm around a daze here. They might have a second Stifle here. A Spell Pierce. Yeah, that's pretty good. So now we're going to be going down to 10. But our opponent's mono blue, so they don't have reach. So if we can control the board, we don't have to worry about lightning bolts killing us. And that's a really big deal here. Unless they're going like pretty weird and playing like Sonic Blast or something. Which would certainly catch me off guard. Alright, we can take 3. Our life total is 10. Kind of need to find something to interact with this Delver with. A Prismatic Ending. I did ask for that, and here we are. Would have liked to find a land, but I will certainly take a removal spell. Okay, Force of Will, pitching Spell Snare. Again, our opponent can't hit us with any reach, so I'm okay to attack with Tamiyo once more, I think. If our opponent plays another threat, then we're going to have to hold this back. But if we find a land, we can Snapcaster Ending and deal with this Insect Aberration. Alright, Murktide is what I'm most worried about. So they could ponder into Murktide. That is a possibility. They shuffled, not surprised given they brainstormed last turn. But if they're not committing anything else to the board, then that's okay. Also got some nice invasion lands over there. Always nice to see the basic lands people choose. Alright, 2 cards left in our opponent's hand. A land gives us an answer to this Insect Aberration. We didn't find a land. We have a Thundertrap Trainer. Let's try and find an answer. A daze. Do we have to fight over this? I think we do. That's sad, isn't it? What are we pitching? I think it's the trainer. I hate doing this, but again, we could just die to this Delver if we just let it continue doing its thing. We need to find a removal spell. This can't find a land, so we can't find a land to set up the Snapcaster next turn. Are they going to stifle this? That'd be very rude. I think we're getting stifled on our Thundertrap Trainer here. We are, okay. I think we have to block with the Tamiyo now. Because if they have removal spells, or just bounce spells or whatever, we can get caught out if we try and wait till the last minute to block with the Tamiyo. By waiting to the penultimate minute, we end up in an okay spot. Like, it's not as if we're cracking these clues anyway, right? So, I'd rather trade my Tamiyo and stay on a slightly higher life total right now. Yep, under the bus you go, Tamiyo. Okay, here goes the thing we have. They can stifle the trigger on this. They can Force of Will us. We're attacking with the Thundertrap Trainer because it can't block. So we have 2 draws left. We've got a natural draw and a clue token to try and find Source of Plowshares or Prismatic Ending. Just an absolutely classic Delvering. Just keeping me just enough off balance the entire game. Address down. Like, that does stop us from dying. Because we can block here. And it is a card draw. And I think we cast this now, before our opponent gets to draw more cards. A Ponder. Okay, that can find a removal spell next turn. Just don't make additional threats. Alright, they're dismembering, and then they just have the 3 damage here now. Okay, we got Delvered there. That was an interesting game, though. The margins were incredibly tight. Pyroblasts, yes please. This isn't really a matchup where I like to spend Force of Wills, to be honest. So if we can get rid of those, that'd be nice. Getting some Wrath of the Skies here. I don't really want to be playing Magus the Moon against our opponent's mono islands deck. Anything else look good here? I don't think so. Like, there is an argument to keep in some Force of Wills, because sometimes the top end can be a little bit scary if they're doing like Murktide and stuff. But we've got 4 Plows and 3 Pyroblasts for that. We've got this Force of Negation. I think I would rather have 1 Force of Will than the Force of Negation. And I think that is pretty reasonable there. Yep, let's go in like this. Okay, double Source of Plowshares, sign me up. I'll keep this and we'll lead off on the Tamiyo. Start getting that abundance of clues. So if we get into the mid game, we can start cracking them and outpacing our opponent. They might even spend a Force of Will on something like a Tamiyo. They did not. We will be playing on basics. So they're probably running fetch lands because they have access to, obviously, shuffling away cantrips like Ponder and Brainstorm, as well as some number of Mystic Sanctuary in their list. Probably 1, could be 2. They might also have just a Surveil land just for the ability to Surveil. No threat on turn 1 is obviously exactly what we want to see. We will fetch around this Stifle as well. Let's just go and get our planes. And now we can sit there holding up removal and Spell Pierce or card draw. And that feels like a pretty strong position to be in. A Brainstorm. That's fine. I don't think we're fighting over that one. They're probably going to have things like Archmage's Charm, which is blue, 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 and you can steal a 1-drop, which is kind of scary when we have a Tamiyo. So that's something I'd rather have a Spell Pierce around for later. We're not just trying to clip cantrips here. I don't think we showed any red mana in the last game, so they might not know to bring in Hydroblast here. A Delver of Secrets. Okay. I think I'm just going to draw a card here instead and use our mana efficiently. Prismatic Vista, good. Because we want to be making land drops. That's really important. A Lorien Revealed. I will go and fetch. I think we just want the mountain here. So we can cast our spells. Let's attack with this Tamiyo. Get a clue. And then we can plow this Delver. So we're going to do it in their upkeep, so if they do want to mess around with the days or anything, we can do that. We just see, okay, they didn't reveal anything. We're still going to plow this, though. That probably means they have another threat, or they drew a land. Those are the 2 main options there. And then we can just continue to crack clues and just accelerate out our card advantage and overrun our opponent that way. Our opponent has seen more cards than us, but some of those are like cantrips which see multiple things and like fetch lands. Okay, Pyroblast, that feels excellent to have in hand. Snapcaster Mage, not opposed to having you around. I would have liked to have drawn a land this turn, but I'm not going to crack off this Lorien Revealed. I think we're just going to pass. We've got full grip. We're well in control of this game at the moment. We just need to make sure it stays that way. Pyroblast with Spell Pierce backup should be good to get through a lot of the scary things our opponent can do. I'll Pyroblast this on the stack, I think. Like, Daze won't work. Force will get Spell Pierced here. If they fire back with another Force, then we still got this Plow. A Daze, sure, I'll pay. We're just going to run our opponent out of cards here. Because I think they're going to do another Daze. Nope, okay. They just wanted to tap us out of white. Attack. Get a clue. I think at this point I'm comfortable cycling this. Do you want to stifle this? No. Let's get another island. Play the island. And pass. We can hold up Flame of Anor. Our opponent's burnt a Daze. If they had a second Daze, they would have burnt it there. So I have to imagine they don't have a Daze. We could draw some cards with our Flame of Anor, or we could draw some cards with our Clue token. We just have it all, really. Right, Force of Will. We don't have many. I think that's the only one we have, actually, right? But in a situation like this, it's fine to have. We've got just all the tools you could want here. We're not winning the game necessarily because of our opponent's life total, but we are kind of winning it on a different metric. I think I want to Pyroblast this because, well, this is a creature we'll have to deal with later anyway, so we may as well deal with it now. And we do have a Force of Will we're sat on anyway, and that would make us go to discard. So it would actually remove our resources when we just trade one for one with the borrower there. Yeah, you can have the Brainstorm. I don't know how our opponent's supposed to get out of this. Tamiyo is just completely running this game. It's just drawing us so many free cards. And there's just this constant threat of it going Super Saiyan mode and winning the game for us as well. A Murktide Regent. I will fight a Murktide Regent with this Tamiyo to pick. Sure, you can Force of Will back. That leaves you Hellbent. And then we can just clean this up now. I will draw a card first. Wrath of the Skies. I think we'll plow this. Wouldn't mind finding some more lands. Alright, our opponent sees the writing on the wall and they are scooping it up to go to game 3 where they get to be on the play, which is obviously pretty good for them. I'm quite happy with how we sideboarded. Like, Teferi is another answer to Murktide. We just bounce out of play and don't have to worry about it. I don't really want to trade 2 for 1 unless I absolutely have to, so we just got lots of 1 for 1 trades. The Dress Down is fine. It can strip out the Murktide Regent, so it comes in as a 3/3 and it cantrips. I could see trimming one of these for another Force, actually, on the draw when we need to catch up a little bit more. I wouldn't mind having a little bit more access to this. But they're not a threat-heavy deck. Yeah, these tools are fine. So, probably Island? I don't know, we'll see how this game develops. But we need to fetch around Stifle now that we know they have it. Okay, they have a Delver. This is genuinely an awkward... this mana setup is genuinely kind of awkward. Because we want to play on basics. But then, if we're playing on basics, it's going to be hard to get access to all the things we need. And we have to play around Stifle right now. So, what do we want to play on our first turn? We kind of have to decide now. Do we want to have access to this Delver? I don't think so. But I don't think we need to kill this right now. We can kill it next turn. The Wrath of Sky is making us want white. White is kind of annoying too. We're definitely in a situation where we can get really punished here. And we just have to choose which way we're going to expose ourselves. So this is our only source and get a mountain. And that's our only interaction that we have right now. So I'm going to go and fetch a mountain. This is the most telegraphed Pyroblast in the history of Magic the Gathering, I think. I'm not going to play into Daze. We need to actually leverage our spells. You're going to flip that Delver? They are not. Okay. So take a hit for 1. And there is a Preordain. Bit awkward putting cards to the bottom and then having a fetch down which then shuffles those cards you don't want back into the mix. Another Delver. Interesting. Okay. So we get to fetch around Stifle this turn. Okay, I think we just blast one of these and keep our life total preserved. I would like to sweep them both up with Wrath of the Skies. I think if we get greedy, then that goes wrong for us. Okay, so this fetches us a basic island. Keeps us further away from Wrath of the Skies if we do that, though. There's nothing else we can fetch that is blue for the Spell Pierce. Alright, they're going to daze us as well? They are, okay. So they are pretty low on cards. They've got 1 card left and an island, and then whatever they draw for turn. Please don't flip. We are also 2 land drops away from making Wrath of the Skies. This is the pain of the basic mana base. Now, our opponent missed on the Delvers, which is enormous news for us. We do have Snapcaster Mage, which we can leverage. We can also Teferi to bounce out a Murktide if that's the situation we find ourselves in. A Plateau, that is a white source. Which white source is better to play out? I think the Tundra is generally more useful. Okay, we're going to take this fight in our opponent's turn. We're going to see what they do in their upkeep with these Delvers. Try and get a little bit of extra information if possible. No extra information was gained. Alright, let's get the Snapcaster in now. They fight this turn, and then if this doesn't work, then we get to Wrath of the Skies them. And we'll Pyroblast this Delver. Okay, this probably means that they don't have any counter magic. Like a Daze, I think, popping off and keeping your creature alive is good. Wasteland, though, that is probably what they do, and that is a good one. But we get to Flame of Anor, killing their guy and drawing some cards. Oh, that's the one thing we didn't want to happen. Okay, we have a Teferi, though. Teferi can bounce this, as we've established. And that's going to save us quite a lot of damage. Now, if they've been sandbagging a Daze specifically for this, then you got me. But I think we just have to get this Murktide out of play. I don't really want to trade the Snapcaster off, do I? I think having a Flame of Anor that works is more important than taking this Delver off the board right now. If you flip your Delver, I guess they flip it to a Daze, that sucks. A Brainstorm. That's pretty good. That starts with the Murktide Regent getting cards in the graveyard again. They do get to attack and kill the Teferi, but that's 3 points of life we're saving. We got a cantripping reprieve from a Murktide, which is handy. As a Brainstorm. So we can Flame of Anor next turn, blow this up, draw 2 cards. That's going to feel pretty strong if it resolves. We'd like to find a land so we can at least play around Daze. If our opponent's pitching 2 cards to answer us, then I can live with that. Especially since we can just send it again the following turn. Alright, so shuffle away their Brainstorm. Astrologian's Planisphere. You got it. Well, we certainly have some interesting options here, don't we? I would like to destroy an artifact and kill the Delver. Is that right? Or do I just want to draw 2 cards and then kill the Delver? I think that's actually better. So I'd like to draw some cards and I'd like to kill this. We already have an answer for this Planisphere. We can also blow it up using Wrath of the Skies. They had a Daze though. Not a bad little Brainstorm from our opponent there. Okay. So they have Island and Mystery card in hand. This is suspicious. We've got quite a lot of life still. I'm going to take the 5. Because I would like to keep my Flame of Anor in its superpowered mode. Well, there's the island we knew about. And here is the last thing our opponent has. Okay, so a white source off the top wins us the game, I think. Equipping the Planisphere to the Delver. You got it. White source, please? Not a white source. Okay. But we do have Flame of Anor, which can draw us a white source. So I'm going to draw some cards. Do we get to draw cards here, or do we have to blow up the artifact? And I think we are drawing cards and killing a guy here. So I'd like to draw cards, and I will take the Delver that is definitely dealing us 3 next turn if we don't deal with it. This one can deal us more. But now we have the Plow as well. That seems reasonable. Do we just plow this straight up? I think so. Let's get rid of the evasive creatures. We've got another Flame of Anor, so next turn we can take both of these out. And then we're just kind of in the zone there. A Ponder. Sure, Ponder is good. But the only counter spell they can have going into our turn will be a Daze, and we can pay for the Daze and just blow this up. And then we'll be in an okay spot. We've still got this Wrath of the Skies that we aren't actually using. We go to 7. Alright, I'll play out this land. Actually, we could just draw some cards and kill the creature. Is actually fine here. So we'll draw some cards, kill this creature, have a Brainstorm if we want it. If we need to do some emergency brainstorming. But if our opponent doesn't do anything, we can just do a big Forth Eorlingas if we want. A Ponder, you got it. And a Brainstorm. And keep selecting. They shuffled off that Ponder as well, so they dig in for a threat, obviously. Alright, they're scooping it up. The writing's on the wall. So yeah, if we can get to a certain point and stabilize, it's really good for us. And the fact that our opponent doesn't have any red spells, so we don't have to care about our life total going low and just getting bolted out, is really nice here. Alright, 2-0 so far. Let's go on to round number 3. I don't think we can keep this opener. I think we have to mulligan it. We need some blue mana to play the game. This hand seems better. Do I believe in the power of these lands? I think so. I think we're going to put back the Plateau here. Volcanic Island. We're looking at some sort of Delver matchup perhaps, or it could be Sneak and Show. Those are the two main things on my mind right now. I could ponder, but I don't know what we're pondering for, because the tools you need for Delver and the tools you need for Sneak and Show are very different. So we're just going to sit on the Spell Pierce, see if our opponent gives us some information, and then we can work out what we're doing and pondering for. Scalding Tarn. We're going to see a Tamiyo. Okay, so I have seen some people playing this in Sneak and Show. Now, I don't know how well those lists are actually doing. Okay, so there is a significant cost of pondering here. I think that's okay. Because if we want to Spell Pierce, we're going to have to shuffle off this ponder. We're kind of... want the land. I would like to keep the ponder as well, but I think the land is the most important thing here. We want to be able to hit our colours. And then we can hold up with this Spell Pierce. And if we don't need Spell Pierce, we can just draw the ponder. I think this is most likely to be... I was going to say Delver, but nope, they're showing us some Grixis mana. So they're probably Grixis control now. So that's going to be an interesting one for us here. Okay, we get to keep the ponder, but our opponent has got Orcish Bowmaster mana up now. Which is a thing, isn't it? Which means... So what do we fetch with this? If we fetch a white source here, and then we can play out this Flooded Strand, we can kind of fetch whatever we want, and then we can play this Thundertrap Trainer. Flame of Anor is pretty good. I'll take one of those, please. We just need to kind of keep attacking our opponent with cards that draw us more cards. I guess that's not really attacking our opponent, but you know what I mean. Our game plan is going to be to try and outcard our opponent, which isn't the easiest thing to do when they have a Tamiyo roll in. I am fearful of Orcish Bowmaster as well, which can change the dynamics of that entirely. Yep, in comes the Tamiyo. If they flip the Tamiyo as well, there's no pressure from Thundertrap Trainer. It's just a 0-2 on attacks. We're trying to not have their Tamiyo get flipped though. Molten Collapse. I don't think I'm going to fight over a Molten Collapse on our 1-2 that already draw us a card. There's no Surveil lands, there's nothing doing here. Force of Negation. It's an interesting one, isn't it? So we can try and shut down our opponent's mana with his Magus, but it doesn't feel great. I think we're just going to ponder. If they get Bowmasters in, it does suck, but okay, they didn't get the Bowmasters in. And they shuffle pretty quickly there. Kind of want multiple of these cards, which is always the way, isn't it? Okay, so we keep this Brainstorm, I think, for now. Just pass it over. It does feel difficult to deal with this Tamiyo. Now we can try and fight on their turn with a Force of Negation and get this off the board. But they're just going to hold up one land so they can Brainstorm. And this is just a pretty toxic play pattern. Now, obviously, we did that to our opponent in the previous game. We just had this Tamiyo that our opponent couldn't answer. So we're no stranger to being the bad guy here. We'll draw our land. Let's go for a Brainstorm. I think we don't want this Make to the Moon, so we're going to send it back. This would be a horrible time to see an Orcish Bowmaster. We have to Flame of Anor it. Right, they're cracking their Clue token. We don't want this Magus. And I think the time for Spell Pierce has come and gone. Is that entirely true? They'll tap and low. They have lots of stuff to use their mana on, though. We'll put this Force of Negation back, actually. So I'll go and get a white source here. Flying over this Tamiyo feels horrible, though. Maybe we just deploy our own Tamiyo. We've held up some pretty awkward mana here, but we didn't really have an option because we're playing on basics. We're like we're not displaying a Brainstorm that we could use here. Maybe we're supposed to wait a turn on the Tamiyo and keep holding up the Spell Pierce. The Spell Pierce just doesn't feel that useful. Alright, this is going to be their first draw. Or sorry, their second draw, including their one for turn. So if they crack the Clue, they can flip the Tamiyo, which is kind of what we want them to do, because it's going to be easier for us to Prismatic Ending this, and we know that it can't like blink away. Because if we try and Prismatic Ending this and they just cast a Brainstorm, then their Tamiyo flips and we don't get to interact with it. We will block here because these decks sometimes run Kaito. We don't want that coming in and smashing us up. Are you flipping the Tamiyo? A Dalthi Voidwalker. Okay. Okay, I think we Flame of Anor here. I would like to draw 2 cards and I would like to kill your Dalthi Voidwalker. Right, we're getting a Force of Will here. our Spell Pierce doesn't look very useful. I will Prismatic Ending this Doughty Voidwalker. Okay, it's gone. We come in, we start getting our clues. If we can start rattling off some Flame of Anor to draw a card and interact at the same time, it's going to be good for us. And if we can find that land, which is why I wanted the Flame of Anor, to find the land to get the Teferi in, and then we can just make sure that the Tamiyo dies. Importantly, the Prismatic Ending ended up in our graveyard that way. Whereas if we do it the other way around, it doesn't end up in our graveyard. Because they might counter it, and then it gets exiled by the Doughty Voidwalker, and then we don't have a way to deal with a flip Tamiyo. And that is a problem. Alright, here is the Kaito. That is also a problem. We can bounce this, but this is going to do some work. And we're very poor at pressuring Planeswalkers. We really need to dip into our sideboard and get our Pyroblasts. But we can Teferi and bounce it, and that will slow them down a little bit. Alright, they're killing our poor little Tamiyo. They're probably going to replay their Tamiyo. Okay. Thundertrap Trainer. I would like a Teferi, please. A Force of Will. The Spell Pierce is actually going to do something, which is exciting. They got another Force here. There's still a pause. They do have the second Force. And now we are kind of stumped. I don't think we win anymore. I think this is too hard for us to come back from. Because they get to draw 2 additional cards a turn. Whilst pressuring our life total with a permanent that is almost impossible for us to deal with. Yikes. Because this is a creature, but it has hexproof when it's a creature. So the only way Flame of Anor can interact with it is not at all. Okay, again, their extra cards. They're going to flip their Tamiyo as well. So we're facing down 2 Planeswalkers. Well, we can answer one of them. Because we have the Snapcaster into Prismatic Ending. So we can deal with the Tamiyo. But, you know, we've got other problems as well. Did we draw a land? We did draw a land. Okay, that's actually important. What fetchables do we have for this? So, we need to go 1, 2, Snapcaster, target us, Prismatic Ending the Tamiyo, and then we can Flame of Anor this and draw some cards. So, draw some cards, kill this guy, so draw some cards, shoot this guy. This will exile our Flame of Anor. Because this will go to the graveyard, then state-based effects are checked. Oh, they had a Force of Will. Okay, that's bad news. Lots of bad news is what we're experiencing here. So they can tap down our guy and bash for 6. That puts us dead to just the Doughty Voidwalker. So the Thundertrap Trainer is going to have to do some real work here. What's happening in this game is our opponents drawn enough cards, their Force of Wills that you normally don't want to be pitching 2-for-1s, have been great. Because they've had enough cards to do that. Because, you know, Tamiyo drew them a million cards. Alright, they've got another Tamiyo. They don't even have to tap down, they can just attack with their guys if they want to. Okay, they're choosing an exile card, so they're probably going to choose our Flame of Anor, which is then going to draw them cards, kill our Snapcaster Mage. And then I'm going to hit this concede button, I believe. Yeah, I don't think we're recovering, and we need time in this particular matchup, because it's kind of a bit of a grind fest. Alright, we got bodied pretty hard there. I would like some Pyroblasts, please. Are we just swapping Pyroblasts for Forces and calling it a day? I don't really like the Magus, though. Like, there are games we could cheese with the Magus. I don't think that's a great way of doing it. Back to basics, though. That's probably going to be better. What do I want to do with the rest of these tools? I think this is fine. Dress Down can mess with a Tamiyo sometimes. Is that better than having a Force? Probably not. Dress Down can turn off a Bowmasters, though, so we will keep one in. Don't want Wrath of the Skies. It doesn't hit Planeswalkers, which is a thing I'm actually scared of. Consign to Memory doesn't stop ninjutsu triggers. Alright, I think we're going to submit like this. Swapping out our Magus for the back to basics. And our 2-for-1 counters with a 1-for-1 counter. Once again, we can't play the game with this hand. Yeah, this one works. We have double Tamiyo, which is obviously one of the best things we can be doing. We kind of need to keep this land. Do we get rid of the Force? I could just make this into a game about Tamiyo. It's not very exciting, but I think it's probably the better thing to do. We could be really cheeky and bin off this Lorien Revealed. And hope that the Brainstorm finds us a land. Because we kind of win the game with this anyway. We could just get rid of Tamiyo, but if they kill the first Tamiyo, then we got nothing. Alright, we're going to get rid of the Lorien Revealed here. And just play the let's win the game with Tamiyo We can Planeswalker it on turn 2. Okay, we have the best thing to be doing in Legacy in play. That's not a bad place to be. We're going to get Fatal Pushed here, or Lightning Bolted. Pyroblast. You got it. I will play a Tamiyo. I would rather hold up Spell Pierce than Brainstorm here. If we can just draw a bunch of cards with this Tamiyo, that's going to be good. We don't need to turn it into a Planeswalker immediately. And this is basically a counterspell as well. In we come. An Orcish Bowmasters, you say? I feel like it's Orcish Bowmaster. Like, I could try and flip this Tamiyo, but that doesn't actually feel like the thing I want to be doing. Although, maybe it is. Right, let's Brainstorm, actually. We've got a Spell Pierce as well that we can support. I don't really want this land just yet, but it'll be good next turn. We haven't made a land drop yet. So we'll end up with these two in hand next turn, I think. I guess that means we put the Brainstorm, put the Plains in the Brainstorm. No, we want the Brainstorm so that we can pitch cast. But we can pitch cast the Flame of Anor, but the Flame of Anor is a higher value, isn't it? So we put the Flame of Anor on top. That gives us the Brainstorm to pitch. We flip our Tamiyo, and then we're just going to protect it with some stuff. So they ping our Tamiyo for 1. We get a clue. That's not the easiest thing in the world to crack. We plus the Tamiyo, so Bowmasters don't deal it damage. And then we're sat on Force of Will and Spell Pierce to keep our Tamiyo alive. Wasteland. Yeah, that's good. Are they going to play a Bowmasters here? 3 mana. They're playing a Kaito. That is not a thing we get to interact with, and now we lose our Tamiyo. Yikes. How are we ever supposed to beat Kaitos? This feels awful. Like, you could say maybe we're supposed to counterspell the Bowmasters instead of flipping the Tamiyo. Maybe that is true. What options do we have? I feel like we've just automatically lost the game now. I don't know how we're supposed to come back from this. And if we Force of Will the Bowmasters instead, that's probably the more heads-up line to play around a Kaito coming in. I just didn't think about that enough. We could Flame of Anor this, but that doesn't help us a lot. But we need to do something. We can at least start brainstorming our way towards answers for this. We've got 3 answers that can deal with it, which doesn't seem like enough. But again, if we'd have had this slightly higher up on our radar, we could have Force of Will the Bowmasters instead of just flipping our Tamiyo. Yep, they're drawing extra cards every turn. Spooky stuff. And a Barragoyf, you say. Okay. Let's say no to Barragoyf. You're going to Force of Will back? They are indeed. What are we doing here? I don't think we'll win this one. So, we definitely could have played this one differently. So, the Force of Will, we could have just pointed that straight away at the Bowmasters and just not worried about them being able to ninjutsu something in. I think that's definitely what we should have done. I don't play enough of this Jeskai control deck to realise how this is just lights out and we lose this almost immediately. So, interesting. But we learned some stuff. Let's go to round 4. Once again, our basic lands are meaning that we can't keep our opening hands. And a Ponder. That seems fine to me. I don't think we need all of these Ponders. We'll put one back. If we can't find what we're looking for with the 3 cantrips, then it's just not on the cards for us today, I guess. But this should be fine to get what we need out of it. Cloud Post. Okay. This is an abysmal matchup for slow blue control decks. Because we don't pressure them enough, and eventually they will make the land drops and kill us. So we need like a big Haymaker. Now we do have a big Haymaker in the form of Magus of the Moon, and we have 2 more in the sideboard in terms of Magus and Back to Basics. So that's going to be pretty much what this game depends on. Okay, let's go for a Ponder. Flame of Anor can blow up some stuff and dig us, but it's not really what we're looking for right now. We're just looking for our one of Magus. Force of Wills can kind of hold back the tide a little bit. I imagine the first one pitches the Dress down. They can't play a One Ring unless they have something like an Elvish Spirit Guide this turn. Go on post, sure, you gain some life. And then, do you have anything this turn? No, okay. I'll play out the Scalding Tarn. Is that true? This gets us red, this gets us a Plains. I guess we can Brainstorm first. And then work out what land we want to play. Because we're not worried about counterspells here. Now, there might be the blue build that has Force of Will. A bunch of cantrips. Like, I'm not opposed to a bunch of cantrips. Let's put back the Dress Down and one of the Brainstorms. And this can go and get us a Volcanic, which means we still have the mana to cast the Magus of the Moon later on, whilst having the ability to cantrip right now. Try Ponder first, and then we can Brainstorm next turn. Thundertrap Trainer, Prismatic Ending. These don't do what we need it to do. We're basically looking for a one-of in our deck. Alright, we can Force of Will some spells. I understand, opponents. So the first Force of Will pitches a Force of Will at this point, because it's more important to cantrip our way to try and find that Magus. Now, we could end up in a situation with Forth Eorlingas being good enough to do some stuff if we can keep our opponent off balance. Alright, so this might be the blue build with counter magic, which is a bit spooky. A stock up. Yep, it's bad news, but I don't think that's what we can afford to fight. Like, it's a 2-for-1 if we counter this. If we don't counter, it's a 2-for-1. It's just bad news all around. Okay, Thundertrap Trainer is not the best. Right, we're brainstorming again. Tamiyo, that is a thing that we have that can do some stuff. So we'll put back a Spell Pierce, and is it one of the forces? And we can get our Tamiyo in. Kind of need this to be white mana, but white mana is not actually that useful here. I think we just need to go and fetch an island and work our way towards the Magus. This isn't what we need. Any order, shuffle. Like, we've had a lot of cantrips, and we found a lot of Force of Wills. Jeez. So Thundertrap Trainer can't find Magus of the Moon. So we're better off trying to Snapcaster Ponder than we are trying to Thundertrap Trainer here. Chalice the Void, X equals 1. I think we have to fight this because our plan is to cantrip into Magus of the Moon, and that's how we win the game. That is our solution. So we can flip the Tamiyo and start working up to the ultimate, which should hopefully draw us the Magus. 3 mana here. Is just another Chalice? A K command. Sure. Let's just say no to that. This is a great turn to draw Magus of the Moon. We did not draw Magus of the Moon. So we get our clue in here. We'll go for Snapcaster. And we will Brainstorm. Is it Brainstorm? No, it's Ponder here, isn't it? Brainstorm flips the Tamiyo is the thing. Yeah, okay, I think it is Brainstorm here. We'll put back this and this. Thankfully we found a fetch land, which is super handy here. It also fetches us our white source that we need. Cast us Teferi next turn, which digs us a little bit deeper. And I think we just try and go over the top of the Tamiyo and get access to Magus of the Moon and a bunch of counterspells that way. Like, we could minus and try and cantrip. I'm not sure Magus on its own is going to be enough. We're going to need stuff to back it up with, so we need to try and pop this Tamiyo. Ugin, Eye of Storms. Yeah, I don't think we win this game anymore. Alright, this feels... So I've played the other side of this matchup, and it felt like unlosable for the Cloud Post deck. Alright, we have a Magus of the Moon. We would like some Back to Basics as well. And then what? Consign to Memory looks really good. And then we've seen blues. They might be playing counter magic-y stuff, but I don't think that's the way to fight this. Source to Plowshares I don't think is where I want to be here. Neither is the ending. Dress Down. How useful are you? You're not spectacular, are you? Let's get one of these and keep another ending in so we can blow up Chalice. Sure, that seems reasonable. So now we have 3 of our big haymakers to draw to. Just this and the Brainstorm. I don't think that's where I want to be. Let's Mulligan. Tamiyo, drawing some cards. It's fine, but that's not what this matchup is about. But I think it's okay. I think I'm going to put back one of the lands so that we have this Tamiyo as our blue card for the Force of Will pitch. And then we can still use this to draw some cards later on. It does require us to draw a land in a few turns, but our deck should be pretty good at doing that. I'm going to put back this one because we want to try and play on basics. Obviously, Scalding Tarn can fetch basics, but can't fetch all 3 basics. Alright, if we can get Tamiyo rolling early enough and doing its thing, then that should be a win condition for us. A Cloud Post. A Brainstorm. That does get things rolling quick enough, doesn't it? Let's go and get our clue. Let's Brainstorm. A bunch of lands. We're going to put 2 of these back. I think we'll keep the Volcanic. Plus the Tamiyo. Just work towards the ultimate. The ultimate should come down before our opponent does anything super duper scary. Especially when we've got this Force of Will that we're sat on. It does mean that we don't get the both modes of Flame of Anor. Alright, this isn't our fight. We don't want to draw the top card of our library. We're just going to get planes now. Thundertrap Trainer. This can find back to basics, but can't find the Magus. I think we do play the Thundertrap Trainer here. Alright, I guess we have a Force of Will in hand. We're pretty close to popping this Tamiyo. The One Ring. Obviously, this isn't going to resolve. They might have a Force to fight back with if they are on the blue build, which looks like they are. They've got an island as well. And plus this, we will draw 2 cards, destroy an artifact. So if we find a blue card for our Force, technically we did. We'll pressure our opponent for 1 damage here. Next turn, we pop the Tamiyo and deploy one of our things that messes our opponent up with counterspell backup. So we need to get through this turn. There's this tower. That doesn't provide lots of mana. The One Ring. We can't allow this to resolve. Alright, we get to win the game because the Tamiyo pops and our opponent doesn't want to go through it. Fair enough. Okay, they still haven't seen the big haymakers that we're actually trying to play around. Let's see if we can draw them. This Brainstorm needs to find us what we want, but this does have the 2 best cards in our deck in this matchup, and we're on the draw. I'm going to keep this, but let it be known that we can absolutely fall on our face here. The Consigned to Memory doesn't hurt either. Okay, we're not going to fire the Brainstorm till next turn anyway. A Thundertrap Trainer. Do I care about the Thundertrap Trainer? I don't think so. It's a cool thing to sink a bunch of mana into, though. So we could Consign to Memory the trigger of that, or we could counterspell on the stack. Either of those are viable options. A K command. Okay. Makes the Moon can stop them from ever casting this. We found a land. That's enormously great news. Let's cast the Brainstorm. Didn't find another land there, though, did we? Okay, so we need to find another land. I don't think we need all of these things. So put one of these back. And Brainstorm? We could Brainstorm now if we need to, but we're probably going to have to fetch with this. I think it is a Brainstorm here. So we're probably fetching to Spell Pierce this turn cycle. And then we're going to fetch anyway and then Brainstorm next turn. Urza's Tower. That doesn't give them big mana. All their lands tapped for 1 right now. I'll take 1 damage. That's totally fine. The Kozilek's command is live. But it doesn't do a lot. Alright. Let's crack this now. Tashana's Tidebinder. Get out of here, you. What do we pitch is the question. I think it's the Force of Negation. We're trying to get our little land there. I think we get a mountain this turn. So we can definitely cast the guy. Okay. That helps. So this can just get us an island. We can just play this island. And we have to get through 1 turn cycle of our opponent not having anything too scary, and then we start jamming these 2 haymakers. And the combination of the 2 should be pretty darn good. Cloud Post, sure. Take some damage from this little friend. There is an argument to Brainstorming now so that we can try and get some permission that works in our hand. But I don't think that's the case. So at present, this is 2 mana, so they could kill a Magus. So I think we play out the back to basics. And then hopefully we can find a land to protect the Magus. So you get 1 go with each of your lands, our opponent. And then we're going to make them non-basic mountains soon, hopefully. Flame of Anor. I guess we cast in this Brainstorm. We're just looking for lands here. We did find a land. Spell Pierce is kind of a weird one right now. We can fire off multiple consigns. So we go Ponder, Flame, or is it the other way around? It's Flame Ponder, I think. And then we deploy this island. And then we're just going to hold up Consign to Memory, Consign to Memory. They tap out for like a big Ugin to blow up our back to basics. We can say no to it. And that's huge. Because that will... So it was 2 mana, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're 1 mana shy of an Ugin. Really want you to just tap out for Ugin here. They did not tap out for Ugin. Are we supposed to just hold back and make it so they can't tap out for Ugin. We'll get our own Thundertrap Trainer in, because then we're going to stop taking damage. We're still holding up what we need to. Brainstorm, Flame. I kind of want this Flame. We could Ponder, but I think I just want to hold up the double consign. Please play an Ugin. Draw your land, play an Ugin, make it feel good. Alright, here we go. This is Ugin mana now. They're doing it in the second main phase. They are not. Another land is pretty excellent. Let's go and get basic planes here. How many of our little bits of interaction to keep us going are we interested in here? Like, we could Ponder here and just try and set up even more mana for the following turn. I don't hate that, actually. Consign to memory, Force of Will. Okay, I will put the Force in my hand. That gives us a really good window to resolve it next turn. We're going to play this one turn extra KG, and then next turn we can just have all the protection, because we're not really under any pressure right now. Where is the Ugin? Play your Ugin, please. I think this is the turn we go for it. We have double consign, Force of Will backup. Now our opponent can still just cast spells. You know, these still tap for 1 mana, so can cast an Ugin at some point. But hopefully we can get through that with all of these tools. It's going to be like a little K command. Sure, I don't think that's where we're fighting. 2 on the bottom. So the Spell Pierce might come around to being useful again soon. I wonder if our opponent's running all his dust. I think if we untap, we're going to feel pretty good. Tishana's Tidebinder is a card that our opponent plays, though, so we can't just run headlong into that. They would like to dismember my Magus of the Moon. How do I feel about that? I think we protect it and we pitch the Spell Pierce. We've got 2 consigns for the scary things we actually care about. We'd love a Giga Drought or something in our deck, just so we could just tap all their lands down and be done with it. We got another Dismember. They do have another Dismember. That is annoying. I'll let that one go, unfortunately. And then I think we are in... We can't play Tishana's Tidebinder this turn. I think we're just going to get our Tamiyo in and then sit on all these consigns that we have. We do have a second Magus in our deck, so we can find that later on. There's no point attacking here, I don't think. We just bounce off each other. Now we can just start doing Tamiyo stuff. And then, like, Flame of Anor at end step. Get some more upkeep plays from our opponent. Let's command. I will hit that with my consign to memory. Right, we've got Force of Will over there. So Force of Will resolves. And I will consign to memory this again. We could have paid for more with the first one if we wanted to. But I want to have the mana up to do extra stuff. Right, we got the clues getting in there. Our opponent's only on 7. So Forth Eorlingas can win the game relatively sharpish. They do have the mana for an Ugin. Khan the Great Creator. Not a big lover of this one. How much mana do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would like to crack this clue. So we're just going to consign this. They can't do an Ugin this turn. They've got rid of their little tokens as well, so their lands are going to actually cost them. Do I need to ponder here? We're definitely going to attack the Tamiyo. We can attack with both and then just Flame of Anor this one straight away. So we'll draw 2 cards and we'll shoot this. We'll flip our Tamiyo, but we've got the trigger on the stack, getting our clue. Plus this. Play this one out. How many lands do we have to fetch? Just this island. I would like to Thundertrap Trainer here. It's more pressure for our opponent to deal with. A Flame of Anor. I'd choose this, I guess. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I do have Ugin mana, which is scary. I stock up. Sure, you can tap low for the stock up. It's going to take more cards out of the rotation land-wise. Back to Basics is a pretty messed up card when it's good against you. Just like all the 3 mana land hosing enchantments, like Blood Moon and Choke and all that sort of jazz. Contamination is an oldie but a goodie. I think we want to return the consign to memory to our hand to cover us from Ugin. We'll play out our land here. Send in the clowns. I think I'm okay to ponder here. Snapcaster Mage, yes please. This gives us lethal if we want it. So we can just use it as an ambush viper. I think we've done enough here, but we'll see what our opponent's up to. So this is the Ugin that we literally just got the thing back for. Cast with Replicate. So I would like to counter this. And we're going to replicate it 3 times. And then we replicate it 2 on each one so they can't do it. Then we flash in. We don't even need to flash anything in because they've taken 2 damage. Alright, we managed to get there. So we are locked in positive record, 3-1. The 4-1 is available if we can win the last round. So let's get to that. On the play, once again, our mana situation is hurting us. Let's mulligan. Island Ponder, Island Tamiyo, lots of things. We keep this. We've probably been off one of our islands, I would imagine. The nice thing about having a whole bunch of basics in our deck means that we can operate on low land count knowing that they're stable. Let me just lead off on the Tamiyo. Get it in before we have to worry about days and stuff. Make our opponent immediately have to do something or this runs away with the game. Once upon a time. So we could be looking at Cradle Control or Eldrazi or Ootle Spells. Probably more in the sort of Maverick Cradle Control ballpark, fetching a Windswept Teeth. We shall see. A Forest. And a Noble Hierarch, sure. Might not be the best matchup for the old Spell Pierces, but it's going to be a good one for Wrath of the Skies, I suspect. Alright, we can attack him with Tamiyo. Play this, we'll go and get a Plains. I think I'm going to get a Thundertrap Trainer in. Prismatic Ending, please. That seems good in this matchup. We've got a Force of Will pitching Spell Pierce, and then we can ponder looking for some more action. There is the Windswept Heath we knew about. Are they playing other colours or not? They are, and it is white, so we are sort of in the Mavericky ballpark. You can have a Noble Hierarch, that's fine by me. Keen-Eyed Curator. That eats it to our Prismatic Ending. Would have liked to have drawn a land there. So we could ponder looking for a land. But if we find a Plains, that goes poorly for us. Right, I think I'm going to go for the ponder looking for a land. We have a lot in our deck. We didn't find what we wanted. I think we have to shuffle this. Okay, that's gone very poorly for us, which is unfortunate. Maybe that's a slightly greedy play and we should just nail this Keen-Eyed Curator. But we don't care about our graveyard that much. Yes, we have Snapcaster Mage. But we've only got 2 of them. It's not like the be-all and end-all of our game plan. And we can afford to take 3 or 6 damage off of this guy without any problems. It's the natural orders of the world that we're scared about. Green Sun Zenith X equals 1. They haven't played a land yet, so they could cradle off of this. And then we're just dead. I think we just have to let them have this. So they get Allosaurus Shepherd, play Cradle, and Natural Order us, then we die. Once upon a time. Okay, that is fine. So now we have a better target for our Prismatic Ending. There is a Cradle. They can still Natural Order here. And it will still suck badly for us. Okay, it's just a Zenith X equals 3. What does X equals 3 mean? Knight of the Reliquary? Nardu. Okay, so we're on the Nardu Cradle build. Yeah, that is disgusting, isn't it? What are we supposed to do about this? Where is my Wrath of God? Here's the land we were looking for before, but it's a little bit too late now. So we're not worried about Natural Order anymore, although they can still Natural Order. We're worried about this Nardu, though. I think we have to just kill the Nardu. Now, their deck is probably the best deck at finding the Nardu in the format. Because they just go and get, like, Cord or Zenith or whatever. Okay, if we attack with the Tamiyo. Surprised I didn't attack with the Keen-Eyed Curator last turn. That felt like a free attack to me. But our Force of Will is still off until we can deal with this Allosaurus Shepherd. That is a Hierarch. Their Keen-Eyed Curator is going to be enormous. Have they got a Cord here? It is a Natural Order. This is going to be a Crater Hoof, and we're going to die. This is going to be more damage than you can imagine. Yep, we got absolutely annihilated there. Alright, now let's go to the sideboard where we get to play Wrath of the Skies. That seems like a good place for us to be. Their mana base is surprisingly fragile, so I would like this Makes of the Moon as well. Pyroblast does counter Nardu on the stack, but it's basically the only blue card in their deck is 4 Nardu, but then they have 8 green ways of getting Nardu into play. So we're going to be sat there with a Pyroblast, not being able to cast it way more often than I would like. We want our removal spells. I don't know about the Spell Pierces. They hit Chords and Green Sun Zenith and Natural Order, so they're not without text. But would I rather just have an answer that does just answer things? I think the Teferi isn't really where we want to be here. Dress Down is good, Removal Spell's good, Wrath of the Skies, Magus. Do I want back to basics here? I think we might want the back to basics. And what do we trim for this back to basics? Maybe it's a Thundertrap Trainer. Let's get those out of here. Like, we could have another Force of Negation. I don't think that's where I want to be, though. What does this hand do? Doesn't get to play its spells, really. Let's mulligan. This one has a game plan. I guess we take that. I think we put back the Lorien Revealed. Like, we can already go and fetch the lands we want here. Get one of each, and then back to basics our opponent right in the heart. Whereas that Lorien Revealed can only get us a basic island, really, because we don't want to lock ourselves out under our own back to basics. Okay, Tamiyo, which we can turn into a Planeswalker next turn. So we can get a clue, transform it, and that's going to stop some of the little creatures dealing us any real damage. But the problem in this deck isn't the little creatures, it's, oh no, there's an Nardu, they have a million cards in hand. Alright, we get our little clue on our attack. And then I will cast a Brainstorm. We don't need all of these lands. I'll put this back. And... kind of tough choice. Maybe it's the dress down. I don't really want to pitch... Yeah, I don't really want to pitch my back to basics to a Force of Will here. We do want this plow as well. I guess we put the land on top. I really don't want to crack this Prismatic Vista if I can help it. That is an Allosaurus Shepherd. We can plow this in response to a spell that we want to counter. That's fine. It's just going to get a Dryad Arbor. Okay, so we get to draw a land, which is nice. And we just plus this. We're going to get ourselves a Plains. And then we can make some decisions on the fly here. An uncounterable once upon a time. I don't care about that. Just a Yavimaya. A Springheart Nantuko. How annoying is that as a card? Like, I think we're always going to plow this Allosaurus Shepherd. And making more Noble Hierarchs is kind of annoying because that gives them pressure. I think we have to pitch this. And then we get to shut down these two lands next turn. So we probably want to turn this into a mountain just so we can cast our red spells when the time comes. We'll draw a card. Untap. We're ready, pretty close to popping this Tamiyo as well. Right, so they have Forest and Noble Hierarch for mana this turn. Can you stop my Tamiyo going ultimate? They will not win if our Tamiyo ultimates. That is a Nomads and Core. That is a Noble Hierarch. Okay. They can't do a chord of any meaningful thing. Yeah, so what we do is we draw half our deck, and then we play a white source, we Wrath of the Skies all of these creatures out, and they're left with just a forest. That felt pretty good. I'm umming and erring on this Force of Negation. I think it's fine. I think we'll submit like this. But the whole get our basics, but also get Wrath of the Skies mana is really tough in this deck, though. We have a removal spell. We have a second removal spell. I think that's fine. We have a Ponder, which can hopefully dig us towards our Wrath of the Skies. Alright, I'm not going to deal with this bird straight away. I think we have other targets that we're more interested in dealing with. We'd like a Brainstorm to fix our hand at some point as well. A Ponder, a Thundertrap Trainer. Okay, I'll take these cantrips. So we'll shuffle away the land. So this definitely needs to get a Plains for us. So next time we're probably looking at Source to Plowshares and Ponder as our options. Okay, this is something I would like to Source to Plowshares, which is why we didn't plow the bird. Right, so they can bounce this, untap this. Yep, it's all pretty good. Springheart Nantuko. Yeah, that's good. Alright, so we're going to crack this for white mana. Then we'll cast this Ponder. See if we can rustle up something useful. A Force of Negation. That's okay against some of the things they have access to. I'll put the Vista on the bottom. Keep the Brainstorm as Force. And then next time we draw the Brainstorm, and we get to try and fix our hand up a little bit. And then take on this. Okay, I think I'm going to kill this Allosaurus Shepherd. I don't want them having lots of different Allosaurus Shepherds. This is an enchantment. I could Force of Negation this, but I think I'd rather save the Force of Negation for something like a Chord or a Zenith. Yep, now this can just go over the top and beat us as well. That is a very real thing that we could find ourselves in. Yep, the damages start to attack us. So we could Thundertrap Trainer this turn instead of the Brainstorm. We could do both. But if we Thundertrap Trainer into a removal spell, we kind of want to fire it off. So we know one card on top of our library. I think I'm going to Brainstorm and then Thundertrap Trainer. Okay, we're going to put back this land we don't want, and we definitely want the second planes though. Put this one back. We need to go get an island now, but that's fine. We can get an island with our Prismatic Vista. And the Thundertrap Trainer is not small on this board, weirdly. It does get to block some of their guys. And they are low on resources. Prismatic Ending. That's not Wrath of Skies. It's like a mini Wrath of Skies almost. We kill one guy. But we've got the insect tokens checked here. They do get to just keep recycling. Okay, yeah, you get to take out my guy. So you get to keep recycling their lands due to the Quirion Ranger. So they're always going to be able to activate their Spring Hunt and 2K. They can choose if they want more Birds of Paradise or if they want more 1/1 guys. I think 1/1 guys is the way to go here. A Sylvan Safekeeper. Yep, that's pretty good. But they didn't have many lands. Yep, this is a lot. If we just draw Wrath of Skies, we immediately win the game though, which is nice. We did not immediately win the game. Okay, so I'm going to Prismatic Ending this Quirion Ranger, I think. That stops them recycling lands. And it means that we get to cast a Flame of Anor this turn. So we play this out, and I think we have to deal 5 damage to this Spring Hunt and 2K. They can sacrifice their Cradle to keep it alive. I don't think it's worth sacrificing a Cradle, but our opponent disagrees. Alright, they're hellbent. We just need to find Wrath of Skies and we win the game. And now they can't give Shroud to stuff if they don't have lands. Now they can still cast spells. Right, Nomads. Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is half of our life total. So we do need to find something very, very quickly. Wrath of Skies, please. One time. Oh, there it is. Boom. Our opponent might even scoop to this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll get rid of everything here, won't it? Should we bank some extra energy for later? I think we should. 2 will get rid of literally everything here. That was a pretty good Wrath of the Skies. And now I think we can slowly work our way up to winning this game. Alright, our opponent doesn't even want to play anymore. And that's understandable. So we finished with a pretty nice 4-1 in the end. So there's a few hard-fought games, you know. It's pretty even all the way down. You know, we had 1-2-0, 1-0-2, and then we had 2-1s in all the ones we won. So they were real games all the way through. But what do I think about this deck? Well, I think it has a lot of really good tools. But it does make a considerable trade-off that we definitely ran into numerous times. That trade-off is we're running basics, which have their pros, but they also have their cons. We had a number of openers that we had to mulligan. Now, maybe if we had a non-basic in our hand and we try and keep on a Ponder or something and we get wastelanded, that ends up losing us the game as well. So sometimes when the cons, like having to mulligan hands, actually ends up being beneficial for you because, okay, we mulligan into a hand that's a lot more stable. And that's certainly useful. Whereas if it was a non-basic land, we could cast our spells, but then maybe we get wasted off. I think the time where the basics really catch up with you, though, is when you board in the Wrath of the Skies. Because you're trying to get your basics in line, so you can cast Flame of Anor and all your blue spells. But then you're also trying to get this white-white spell online. And it just becomes really awkward, especially when you're trying not to trip over your own Magus of the Moon and back to basics. So there's definitely some downsides there. Our deck isn't actually very good at winning the game. And we saw against the Grixis deck that if our opponent puts down an opponent that we struggle to deal with, like a Kaito, then we can just be completely out of luck. Now, we did make a decision that definitely changed the way that game played out against that Kaito. So we could have Force of Willed the Bowmasters rather than brainstorming with our Tamiyo. My logic was we brainstorm because we lose it anyway, if that makes sense, if the Bowmasters comes down, and we just get this, we see what cards we have, then we can operate differently. But we should have just countered that so that the Kaito couldn't come down. And that was definitely a mistake in retrospect on our part. I'm not overly familiar with playing these decks, and I didn't expect us to be as cold to that card as we were. We were just completely lights out to Kaito. So maybe we need additional Kaito answers in the sideboard. So we could have a 4th Pyroblast, for example, or 1 Red Blast, just so we've got a slight difference of names in case that's relevant to things like Cabal Therapies or whatever. So I wouldn't mind having a bit more of that action. We saw how basically all the parts of this deck were useful at some point, right? Now we did board in Surgical Extraction, right? Just a little bit. We didn't board in the Stony Silence though, but we know what that's for. The Cloud Post deck I don't think you actually want the Stony Silence for. It does answer the One Ring, which is something. So maybe we want that for that, but that's just one card to answer just the One Ring. Whereas if we board in hard counters, they can answer the One Ring or they can answer something else. And I think that ends up being better for us most of the yeah, the deck seems pretty sweet. I love playing Spell Pierce. I think this is an underplayed card in Legacy. I just think it's just really handy to get you out of those early turns and just have some really nice trade piece in the Spell Pierce. But yeah, deck is very solid. It's a lot of work and some stuff can just completely run you over. And sometimes you will lose games because of your mana base, but you'll also make it so your opponent's cards are blanked because of your mana base. And you get to run some big haymakers. And we did see the Back to Basics and Magus the Moon win us games. So there's clearly power in those cards. And the fact this is a wizard to go with Flame of Anor is pretty cool. Flame of Anor is really the thing that holds this deck together. It's just this, okay, we get to answer something, but was also gassing up again, which is exactly what these sorts of decks want. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can become a member for just $1 a month. And then you get to see all my videos early. And it supports me, and I appreciate each and every one of you who do that. Alright, we're done for today. Thank you so much for watching again, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.